I'm Alex.
And I'm Teddy.
And I'm Spencer.
And we are
The Button Mappers.
Hey, the Button Mappers.
I was not drunk. I'm an innocent like 4-year-old.
You're drunk.
Don't imply
NES
that,
Fun.
Brian.
You're drunk on NES Fun.
We invite you on our show, and you call a picture of me as a kid drunk.
Can you change your profile picture to that instead of Jerry?
Oh yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Drunken child.
Yeah, drunk
you have
child.
to kind of like,
Yeah,
you have to like zoom in on yourself, or it'll be too small to make out what it is.
Add a bottle, a baby bottle.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me
Empty.
give me a second.
And I love the living room. I love that paneling with the carpet there.
I love this art.
That is the most That is the most like, even in the 90s, the most like 70s shit. You know?
Yeah. Because I grew up in a house with shag carpet and gold and yellow appliances. It was like 70s.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is that like whenever people are like, I grew up in the 80s or 90s. Like they think of all these different designs, and it's like no, shit looked like that because it was it was built in the 60s and 70s and made to last forever. So.
Yeah, I mean, our freezers would last literally. I think our freezer, my mom sold the house, is still working.
Wait, you know what freezer rhymes with?
Weezer.
Freezer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's start. Brian, you're in charge.
Oh
yeah, Brian.
We've literally told Brian nothing
now.
Except that we're talking about the NES.
That's all he needs.
Yeah. Talking. Really? Seriously? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Ready? Okay. And the button mappers. And then the show fades in.
Welcome to the Button Mappers console discourse. We're doing the NES this time. The 8-bit console, which, love it or hate it, you got to agree it's one of the most important consoles of all time in North America, at least, because before that you had Atari, and as well as good as Atari was, they were basically arcade ports or arcade-style games. The NES strived to be something more. It reinvented the market in the United States and North America. Today I got Spencer, Teddy, and Alex Turbozone with me. We're going to discuss what we like about the NES, what we don't like about the NES. Do we even have any game experiences, and any little tidbits we got going on here? So I'll ask first you guys, Spencer, what do you like about the NES? What are your experience with the NES? And I kind of know your answer.
Well, here's what I like. I like it if you, the viewer, will like, comment, and subscribe. And when you comment, tell us what your experience with the NES was. Or is, if you're still playing this. And then make sure you ring the bell so you're notified every Monday that our videos are coming into your brain. And then make sure to check us out on Discord. And find us if you're listening for podcasts. Look for Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Wow, you're just stealing all the plugs.
You made me do it last time.
Wow.
One plug you did not reach is make a video response if you're so inclined. The NES Discourse. What would you want to say about the NES?
And send us your Weezer playlist.
Some of your favorite games that you like. They can be common. I mean, some of the best NES games are common because they're good. They're well known. So nothing wrong with that.
So you asked me like what do I like from the NES?
Yeah. Tell me your experience with the NES. Are there any games you have an inkling to play, or would you give it another shot?
I'm curious about the RPGs at the time because I just like RPGs, and it's interesting to see them take off here. They would get like infinitely better on the Super Nintendo, but it's interesting to see like some of the ideas sprout here. So I'm currently playing through Crystallis. I played Final Fantasies 1 through 3 already. Technically not on the NES, but I got what I wanted out of it. But I'm always looking at the different ones. I'm actually somebody commented on a weird one that I tried to pull up. Oh my god, I tried to play Ease 1, like a Famicom release, but I tried to play the patch. And that game sucks. Like it's so awful. Like I can't even believe it. Did you play that one at all, Brian?
I played the Turbo version, or the PSP remake of the Turbo Graphics Turbo CD version of 1 and 2.
Ugh.
But if it didn't change anything, I know you run into enemies to attack. Is that what you hung up on you? I like that. Because you feel like a tank just bowling into enemies. The trick is you got to go at an angle and hit people, and then they can't hit you. So you don't want to go straight on because you'll get hit. So you want to go at an angle. And once you get that, you just start running through everybody. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was a nightmare when I played it. I literally can't stand it. But yeah, it is interesting to see like some of the older ones and just see where they came from. I'm sure we'll play some NES games on this channel, like maybe we might play the remakes on certain ones. But either way, it's cool to see some of the beginnings of games. But no, I don't like going back.
That's fine.
I find that I'm like a Super Nintendo and up guy.
That's fine. I mean, I understand that. What about you, Teddy?
What do I like about the NES?
Just anything. It could be anything about the NES. Just tell us a little bit. It could be like, just anything. It could be like, what do you like? What do you don't like? Tell me about any history you got with it, about development that you heard of, or just anything. I don't know. Like, what do you think of its importance? Like,
that's way too broad, Brian.
Well,
okay,
you guys forced him to do this. You didn't tell him anything.
Okay, I will say this. Do you think, as somebody in your early 30s, I'm going to guess, I don't know exactly how old you are, do you think you would recommend a younger person today, say in their 20s or 30s, to play NES games any way they can?
Yes. I would.
Would you say that, like all consoles, there's a lot of bad games out there, but there's also a lot of good games that you just have to try, and like you can't cast like the NES has just a lot of garbage because lots of other consoles have garbage too. So you just have to find, something that speaks to you and you enjoy.
God, how loaded of a question.
Brian has a podcast with himself right now.
So yeah, you recently played through. You're playing through. I'm dying here. You're recently playing Super Mario Brothers, and you got up to World 5-3 without dying. What was your experience like doing that on an original NES?
My experience playing Mario Bros. On the NES is favorable. I tend to go for that warp pipe, but I challenged myself not to, like 1 or 2 times. A couple things that are interesting. I mean, first off, I knew that the way I played through the whole game was the polished up version on the Wii, the Super Mario All-Stars looking one. So it looks nicer. This one still looks good, but it's still just as stiff. And then to continue, because you only get the 3 lives, and any that you earn. To continue, you have to do this weird configuration. It's like holding start, and then twice, like once when you game over and once when you press start on the 1-player menu. That was different for me. It didn't really matter because it takes me like 6 minutes to die anyway, if I'm going for the cheap route.
But I think Mario, people think that Mario is an easy game, and that's just because it's been out so long and a lot of people who have played it a long time. But it's not an easy game. It takes a while to get used to the controls and how you move and the level layouts. So it's quite a challenge, like a lot of games back then were. But yeah. So you're
everything's tricky, right? Because you only get 3 lives, and you have 4 worlds in each level, or like 4 levels in each world. So like 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, 5-4. Those are all unique challenges. 5-1 starts, I think, with the Lakitu chasing you from the cloud, and then it goes to an underground segment where there's like, or maybe this is 4. Even I'm thinking 4-1, 4-2. Like there's like a pretty sizable gap in the underground segment. They start removing things. It's almost like every every dash number 1, 2, 3, 4 is kind of like a remake of the previous world's 1, 2, 3, 4. If you get what I'm saying. And it gets more challenging as you go on. So I don't necessarily play it like looking to complete it every time. I just kind of play it looking to just get as far as I can and just have fun. So I enjoyed Mario 1 on the NES.
Eventually, I think when you play it, eventually you will just, by happenstance, you'll get so good at it that you'll just beat it one day. You'll be, oh, I just beat the game. It'll happen. So you also played through Castlevania and Mega Man, all the Mega Mans, 1 through 6 on the NES, but you played them on the new versions. Mega Man Legacy Collection, was it?
And Castlevania Anniversary.
So I think, would you recommend people who, because it's hard to get into NES stuff now because prices are expensive. You can get like clone consoles, but they don't play it well, and you got to play on a modern TV with some lag, and it doesn't quite look as good. I think would you recommend anybody who's curious maybe try those editions? They're still good to play. You didn't have any problem with those editions because the gameplay was still fun, even though they were they're still good games, even though they're re-releases.
Yes.
Okay.
I am so sorry, Brian. I don't know why they did this to you.
Okay. Moving on. Alex. No, it's okay. Alex, I think I know a little. I know a little bit about Teddy's NES journey, and I know a little bit about yours. Why don't you tell us about your NES experience? What you think of the system? What are some of your favorite games?
I think it's dog shit. Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't dislike any console because video games. As long as I can have fun, I don't give a shit. But NES is actually one of my favorite Nintendo consoles that I still like to collect for today. Because there's just something, even if I haven't played a game, there's something nostalgic about it. About having these fat cartridges with the cheesy box art on the front, like cheesy cover art, and like the very simple pick up and play games. I played NES as a kid. I didn't have one long though. I think my parents got rid of theirs, and then I had like a Super Nintendo and stuff growing up. But I would go back and explore that library later on, and actually come to appreciate I like the NES more than the Super Nintendo. Hot take.
No, I'm with you there on that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really have a lot of experience growing up, except for when I was really young. But it's something that I've learned to appreciate more as I've gotten older.
Yeah. And one of your favorite games is Bubble Bobble and Metroid, right?
Yeah, together, Bubble and Metroid. The combo game.
Yeah.
Shoot
that's
bubble dinosaurs with the spacesuit.
I think you're making.
Okay. Can we do the actual console discourse now?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll seize reins back. Okay, that work, Brian?
So yeah, that works for me.
Thank you for opening the episode for us.
You're welcome.
Okay, welcome back everybody to the Button Mappers. We're going to do a discourse on the NES, and we'll just kind of keep it open discourse, and we can go through a range of topics. Feel free to jump in to introduce one at any time. We are, of course, featuring Mr. Brian from Igotkings here on the YouTube and the Twitch space. Maybe soon to have a name change. We'll find out. Maybe we'll have already changed. Alex has bee stings, indeed. He's been outside too much lately.
There's no bees out right now.
Igotkings is in fact a king of the NES, if any system. That's why he's here twice this month. You've already seen him on Game Talk. If you haven't, go check it out. Killer episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me, by the way.
Yeah,
I got rings.
Alex has been jewelry shopping lately.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Sonic fan, but that'll work, I guess.
Yeah. Alex has been playing Sonic Forces.
Yeah.
He's a force to be reckoned with.
Sonic Foreskin.
Sonic Force Tears of the Kingdom. Okay. NES. When I say NES, what are the first games you think of? Let's start the discourse now. Go.
Mario.
Zelda.
Those, yeah, and then Mega Man.
Castlevania.
Yeah, Castlevania is one. Ninja Gaiden. I think Ninja Gaiden.
DuckTales.
Woo. DuckTales. Woo.
Contra.
Contra. Woo.
Controversial.
What about you, Teddy? What do you think?
Those Blaster Master, Dr. Mario.
He's a doctor now.
I think of sequels like Mario 2, Zelda 2, Dragon Warrior, Final Fantasy
Two.
2.
I also think of the
4 of them,
foundation.
to be precise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The foundation of so many franchises started here. This is where it started. The line is drawn here. This is where it started. Platforming games really took off. They got bigger. Like platformers were huge, and you got Mario, Zelda. All those started here and moved on, and still going today. Still got Mario.
Well, this is really like this is really the foundation for what gaming is now. Is the NES. Obviously, I'm a huge Atari fan. If you didn't know that, I'm a huge Atari fan. But a lot of Atari stuff is mainly like arcade conversions and that type of stuff. The NES was the first console to really feel like they were trying to stray away from that and enter more of like a unique home market with video games, instead of being like, this is where you can play asteroids, being like, this is where you can go on an adventure with Link, So yeah, I love it. Really felt like the bedrock of gaming as we know it today.
Yeah, because before that I had an Atari. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But when I got an NES, that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted for birthdays, Christmases were NES games. That's all I talked about at school. That's all I cared about. And so,
that's all you talk about now.
kind of nothing's changed. But I never did that with Atari, but NES was a huge part of that. And I think for a lot of people, that's why it's so strong, is that pool for a lot of the formative generation of people in their late 30s, early 40s, late 40s. That was what they grew up with. That's why it's still, so fondly remembered. Will it be remembered when those people die off? I'd like to think, I think it will. It's very important in history. I think it will be very remembered. Will people in their 20s and that are born now want to play NES games? I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah. No, I don't. No, I don't think Nintendo will let you forget the NES. Don't play that game, because there's NES nostalgia literally like every 5 years. It's like Nintendo re-celebrates the NES in some way. Recently, we saw it with the Game & Watch handhelds, because they had like the Mario one and then the Zelda one, and also they have like the NES Online stuff. And then it's like every Nintendo generation. It's like NES is always something that's brought up as like celebrating the NES. Game Boy had like those NES re-releases on like GBA. They were like just NES games on a GBA cart.
I think they can only go so long with that because we're getting older.
Nah.
And we're gonna, I think you got to move on to like, Wii, GameCube, 64, all that stuff, you think?
To an extent. So I just want to jump in here. NES is before my time. So my experience with NES is really through whatever the celebrations were up until now, where I can get carts. So I've only really known the NES for those legacy titles, Mario, Zeldas, Kirby's, etc. And I don't really know anything about obscure NES games. Like I didn't hear us really like come up with those when we're talking about what we think of when we think of NES games. So I guess just generally, like, how do you feel about the library? I know it's foundational. I know it set the standard, but would you say it's fun and playable today?
I think absolutely, but I think you have to be a certain type of person, I think. See, the thing is...
What type of person, Brian?
A lot of people growing up now in modern games are so different. The sensibilities of modern games is so different than what games used to be, that if you're so used to the modern games, like how they play 3D, and I'm not that experienced with modern games. Like I play a few, but I think that's ingrained in so many people now that that's what games are. That I don't know if that's what I was kind of getting at. I don't know if somebody who's born now or in their teens now. They're out there, trust me. And I think they can still enjoy it, but you have to want to get to it. You have to want, like, if you're going out there to play games, you're always going to go after the thing most accessible. You have to have some way to get these games to show people how you like them, that they're good. A better way, than Switch online or something. You have to have it more accessible for people to find out about these games. I think once you play the games and you find out how fun they really are, they still hold up well. I think they're still fun to play. But you got to get over that hurdle and that mindset of, oh, it's old, I don't want to play it. You have to really play it and find out, oh, this is very, very good.
I would argue against that in some sense. I think we've seen the indie scene really embrace that era of gaming. I mean, we did Shovel Knight earlier this year. That's a huge love letter to NES games in particular. I think there's still a huge audience for this type of stuff today.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Most of the new stuff I play is indie stuff. I don't play new AAA stuff because it's not what I'm looking for in games. Like, I'm looking for the indie developed stuff, and I think that still holds up. I think the indie sensibilities is from the NES era, the Super Nintendo, those games, because they're fun games. They have good bedrock foundation of gameplay first. It's fun. They're still making those games because they're fun, and they grew up with those games. And the other companies aren't making those games anymore. The big name companies, and there's fewer and fewer of those companies out there now. Companies are being bought out. It's taking millions and millions of dollars to make games. They have to make what sells. They're not going to put a lot of money into an NES type game. The indies are basically, it is kind of like Turbo said, the indies are basically the NES generation times two. There's a lot of good ones out there that you can play that are available thanks to Switch.
Yeah, I would say no. I would never recommend a person to play an NES game or games from this era. It's just, the games have gotten so much better. They look better. They play better. More complex, more interesting, better stories. Just everything is better. And I don't think that's a dig at NES. I think that's a compliment. We took what we learned from the past and we made so many improvements. We're like, oh, it'd be great if we could do this. Maybe with more hardware it's possible, and then we can do that. I'm just thinking about like Zelda. To me, like the first Zelda on the NES is it's great for its ideas, but actually playing it is, it's redundant. It's like when you could play, some of the more modern stuff, like the more modern Zelda is that idea, but just made so much better in every way.
I'm going to disagree with that a little bit. I don't think Breath of the Wild is good. It's good, but it's not that Zelda experience that I enjoy. It's more of there's too much to it. It's too overwhelming. And I think for a lot of people, it is kind of like open worlds are overwhelming to people. Zelda is small enough that it's an open worlds kind of, but it's not overwhelming to you. Breath of the Wild, there's too much stuff to do. In the new one, you can like craft stuff. I don't want to do that. I just want a game where I'm a guy with a hero go.
But that's you. I'm talking about.
I could say the same thing about you too. You're saying that modern games is better than this. I'm saying that I prefer the new older ones. So it's both ways.
The question.
So I think.
The question was, would I recommend it to a modern gamer, like a gamer of today, like a kid from today that's playing today's games? And no,
the question was just, what do you think of the library? Do you think that they've improved?
Well, I think I did ask that. I did ask that. Spencer's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did ask about what he thinks. Okay. Yeah, I kind of am agreeing with you to a bit. I don't think that you can recommend NES to somebody like who's 15 right now, and then there are people out there who like that stuff, but
yeah, kind of like you said, like if they develop an interest in it and they're like, oh, this is really interesting, like where did this come? I've never heard of Zelda before. It's like, oh, it can't, here's the history and everything, and maybe there's a percentage of them that will actually go back and find something there, and good for them.
Yeah,
like that's cool.
They need a way to get that out there because it's going to go away.
But I would never say, hey, start at Zelda 1 and then maybe you'll like the newest one that you can go to the store right now and buy and enjoy. Like that.
I don't know. I'd play Final Fantasy 1 over some of those newer Final Fantasies for sure.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
no, I would not.
Too.
I would absolutely
I have no
not.
interest in those newer Final Fantasies. They lost me at 7.
From somebody that hasn't even played 16 because he doesn't want to, I would not recommend 1, literally the NES version of 1 over
Yeah,
Final
probably not
Fantasy
NES.
16. That would never work.
You can play the Pixel remasters.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. But again, that's a modern game. That's a game
Yeah.
and just like Shovel Knight,
Well,
when you
it's
brought
modern conveniences.
right,
It's
we
not
brought
a
up-
modern game.
we brought up come on. We brought up Shovel Knight. That is a modern game made to express it like as a love letter of those older games. But there's so many modern conveniences. It's not the same thing as
It's
playing
not
an NES game.
comparable exactly. It's a love letter, but it's had 30
Yeah,
years.
Shovel
Right,
Knight
it's
is
had
between.
it's had all of the wisdom that we've learned and we've amassed, and it's like here's the things we really like, and then we distilled the stuff that we don't like. So it's hard to even say like, oh, because people like Shovel Knight, they'll like all the
I
NES
think
games.
maybe that was the wrong question. I think there's different types of people. Like if you like
Sure.
a certain game, you're gonna like it. So maybe
There's
that
always a retro market, sure.
yeah. But I guess
Yeah.
I'm getting at how once the draw line for NES, we're not getting any like people who like the NES. They're not going to be here. They're people who grew up with it. They're not going to be here forever. Just like Atari people are dying off.
I don't know. I
you
think
think-
there's always a place for everything. It'll
Yeah, I mean,
it'll diminish, but it'll never go away.
Well,
Like
and there's always going to be nostalgia of people being
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I remember playing Balloon Fight on Animal Crossing." You know, like that person that played Balloon Fight on Animal Crossing, they're going to grow up and they're going to be like, "I have nostalgia for this NES game."
People still talk about Pac-Man. I think Pac-Man's the stupidest game ever.
Hell yeah!
But
Fuck
people,
yeah.
it's still gonna be there. It's in the lexicon. Like if it's a great game, even for its time, it'll stay there. It may diminish, it may shrink, it may have its highs and lows, but it'll be there forever. I don't think it'll ever go away.
And one of the benefits of the of Nintendo is that they are still relevant today, very much so. And there are all these hidden ways to play NES games. Whether it's within a game, within Donkey Kong 64, playing the Donkey Kong arcade game, or if it's in like these online services or whatever, or even emulators. Like, and I talked to kids today. I'm like, I have an NES. Do you know what that is? A Nintendo Entertainment System. Wow. Okay, pretty good coming from a 13-year-old, so it's not lost in the lexicon. The question is, are they playing those games, or do they have the intent to? And that's kind of where I want to jump in with my perspective on the library. I do think that it's hard to get into a lot of the library. Zelda 1, recommending Zelda 1 is a very tough ask. Ask Wario. Big ask. But for me, I think that even Dragon Warrior has turned the thing on its head for me, because previously I would have said it's too antiquated. But now playing it, I'm realizing how actually just really playable it is. And it makes me think of other like classic NES games that are just infinitely playable, like Super Mario Bros. 3. Like that is like a quintessential NES game for a lot of people. I think Dragon Warrior 1 kind of is in a sense for me as well. And I'm sure there are other quintessential NES games that just make playing it in the original way worth it, because you can see like what it's like. Like I did not live in that era. I had no idea. But now just playing it, I feel like I understand somewhat, at least, what it was like to be a kid in the 80s, to play the first ever turn-based RPG, and like, what would you have been dealing with, or to play one of the best platforms ever from that time.
Yeah.
And that's where I get lost when
Yeah.
people say like, I don't know about lost, but like where I disagree with people who say like, I'll never be able to live this, because I think you can. I think if you empathize, you put yourself in the setting, the time, place, with the tools you have now, you can at least start to feel that. And that's where I, as a younger person, experience that.
Yeah, with Zelda, I
Yeah.
think a lot of that Zelda is missing from the manual. It came with a manual that explained the game pretty well up to the first few dungeons. And once you learned how to play the game, it wasn't that difficult.
But yeah, I
So-
come from the perspective of like, if we're talking like comparing NES games to newer games, that's like apples and oranges. That's like asking like Zelda 1 versus Tears of the Kingdom. Do I want a sandwich or a buffet? Like that's not a choice I'm ever going to make. If I want a sandwich, I want to have a sandwich. If I want a buffet, I'm going to have a buffet. So that's kind of like where I come from for like NES games and stuff. It's like I'm not going to the NES library for the same things I'm going for modern games. I'm going because I want something quick and easy that I'm going to have a fun time with. I don't want a 40-hour, 60-hour game.
I feel like as great as Breath of the Wild and that is, they're getting like people say Breath of the Wild is like the first Zelda. I don't really see it all that much.
It's the same ideas, same basic ideas.
There's no dungeons. I mean, there's dungeons, but the dungeons are not. I don't get the feeling in the Breath of the Wild dungeon like I do in a Zelda 1 dungeon. Like Zelda 1 is like mystery. Zelda, like there's just things I can see how they make that comparison, but I just feel like I don't want them to say, okay, we're just doing Breath of the Wild stuff. I don't want them to throw away all the NES stuff that's still good, just for the sake of like changing it up.
No one's throwing away your NES stuff,
Yeah.
Brian. Look behind you.
I would argue the opposite. I would say that Breath of the Wild is really a return to the NES. Like it makes you think, oh, this is kind of some of the things, the ideas that they had, because they went away from that pretty much immediately. With not like
Yeah, but you're telling that to a guy who grew up with the NES, so he's gonna place it differently in his heart.
Sure. But what I'm saying is
That
Yeah.
might be some of it. I just
as soon
don't
as
see it.
as soon as the
see-
Super Nintendo, as soon as like the Super Nintendo hit, they went away from the idea of like free range and really tried to railroad you down a path. And
Oh,
that-
even Zelda 2.
Right.
Zelda 2 railroads you in the path. Yeah, basically.
well, Zelda 2 is very different, but
but it's a Zelda.
it is true. But like with Zelda on the Super Nintendo, and then from there all the way up to what the Wii one or
Skyward Sword.
I mean, they were just like, this is the Zelda we're doing now is very on a beaten path. And I think
they got too much handholdy and stuff, but I think they overcorrected a little bit too much. I think there's a happy medium they can go
sure
between people like me and then people who want the more open experience. I just don't want them to throw away the classic Zeldas for this new Zelda.
Well, they'll never throw
Which
it
they
away.
have.
Well, they're
they'll
not
not-
making those. They'll remake the old Zeldas probably, but I don't think we'll get
That's
a new.
that's as far as it'll go. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we got a Skyward Sword remake, but in 2017 they said,
yeah.
you know, fucking what is his name? Newman or Kondo
Yeah,
or somebody
Al Newman.
was like, "Yep, nope, Al Newman."
But-
It's Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild or bust. So that's why, like.
But why
I'm
do
glad.
you want why do you just want the first Zelda? Do you just want them to
No,
make
no.
it?
The first Zelda is more open than the later, like after Link to the Past. You said so, but I like both. I like the Link to the Past model. I like going into dungeons. I think there's still a market for that. To release a 20-hour Zelda game like Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, you know, Ocarina of Time, where you go into so many dungeons, you get an item, use the item in the dungeon, and you're railroaded. I like that. I don't think you can just. I want them to release those Zelda games like the old ones still.
And I don't know if Zelda 1 is as flexible as it's made out to be. You
You
still
can go in
need
different
certain
orders.
items for progression.
Mhm.
The rafts,
It's-
the bombs.
Yeah, you need the raft to
It's-
enter.
The bombs you could buy, but yeah, okay.
Zelda 1 is great at giving you the illusion of free choice.
Yeah.
But it's still
Which
also
is why
kind
I
of
like
on the
Dragon
path.
Quest too. Dragon Quest is like that too. It's an illusion of open world. It's not really so overwhelming to you. It's like it's railroading you, but you feel like it's so much more massive. Where an open world Zelda game bigger isn't always better, and I think they got away from making a more compact Zelda experience. Which Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are great, but for somebody, not everybody likes Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and that's okay. And not everybody likes the old Zelda, and that's okay. But why can't we both eat? Why do we all have? Why does it have to be Tears of the Kingdom style, big open world? And why can't we get the smaller, more compact Zeldas anymore? I just don't want them to
Money
forget
speaks.
about that. Yeah, exactly. That's probably
why.
it. Yeah.
Which goes back to my point. Like that's what the people want, so they're gonna make that game, and it doesn't erase the games.
Well,
before.
that's what a lot of people want because it's selling a lot. But what's always popular isn't best sometimes, and I think for a lot of people, like me myself, we feel a little let down by the current Zeldas. Current two.
Yeah,
Zeldas.
and also you have to see it's complicated because the nuance of why Breath of the Wild is so successful is its launch. It is a grander game, so ideally it would sell more. The previous Zelda games, are they comparable metrics coming out on 3DS and Wii U even? Was there a Zelda game on Wii U? I don't know. Twilight Princess HD.
Hyrule Warriors.
Breath of the Wild was on
Yeah.
the Wii U.
I think we're talking too much about Breath of the Wild. We should probably move on. Probably.
Yeah, let's talk about the
Talk about
NES.
it.
'Cause,
Yeah, this is NES. I don't know. Sorry.
I don't care. No, hack away. Just
No.
finish your points. That's fine. We
No,
can
I'm
move on.
done. I'm done.
Hi, Don. I'm Dad.
Skate or die, bitches.
Skate or die. I have some. So I'll talk a little bit. So the NES, I'm going off of memory. It was released in test markets in New York around 1985, and they released a set with Rob. And it was and those were the original 32, I think, black box games. So you got your favorite.
Who's
Cooper
Rob?
Land in there. Rob is a robotic operating buddy, which I never used them.
Thank you.
He was a robot that moved on Gyromite. He would use them and he'd pick up and open gates for you. But a lot of kids probably just used the second controller to do that and didn't use the Rob experience. But you had a set of black box games. There you go. Some of these I don't have all of them, but they were the original black box 32. There's Cuckoo Land up top.
What Rob is to me? Rob is the beginning of Nintendo's long trend of being like, here's one idea that we can't do anything else with except for this one idea, and then going, skirt! Never mind, we're not using it anymore. Yeah. That's exactly what Rob is.
You know what it was? No, what it was for was because in North America, I'm not speaking for any other country, Atari crapped the bed so much with letting everything come through that they wouldn't touch it. They wouldn't touch a game system that's called video games it was a toy anymore. Market.
Yeah.
So they made it a toy, an entertainment system, and they packaged a toy robot with it. So it would Trojan horse it into stores, see how it sold, and then if it sold well, then they could, branch out.
But there's just some irony to me that like we kind of look at Nintendo now as like, oh, they do gimmicks like the Wii U tablet or something like that, and don't do anything with it, or and it's been there since day one.
Yeah. They've always done gimmicks and stuff like that. I mean, they were into graphics up until, past, the Wii. GameCube was powerful. They were into that too. But yeah. And then, so then you had the action set, which this is the second one. You see,
he's got a gun!
The second one's orange. The original one was gray. So they couldn't have kids with a gray zapper, so they made it orange. And then they also had another set, the sports set or the power pad set with the power pad for track and field and exploding and that egg game. I forget. Well, there's a few games for it. That you had the little pad. If you don't know what that is, it's a pad that you run on, and you can run on the numbers and jump hurdles and stuff. I've never used one, but and then the big coming from my experience, the NES really took off around 88, 89. That's when I really heard about it, and it just took over everywhere. That's all kids, at least where I was running with, that's all we wanted for Christmas, basically, is like NES games. It's hard to state how big it was, because video games now are big, but this is a different kind, because Atari was big, but not in a way NES was. NES was like, blew up so quickly. Like there was the breakfast cereal, which is I had. It was
that's how you know you made it.
Super Mario Brothers Super Show. It was just everywhere. They had like licensed merchandise, which was hard to find even until finally with Nintendo branching out into like movies and stuff. You're seeing more Nintendo merchandise and figures and stuff. But there was off-brand kind of weird looking figures, like Mario weird looking. It was just so huge and so fast, and that it really, in North America, really got the confidence back in video games again. You had the Genesis later in '89, which was really, really big too. There was always people playing games. You didn't hear adults talk about it, but like kids would talk about it, and you just hear about it everywhere. Video games. You had a friend who had a Genesis or something, and I think NES it has a lot. They do a lot of dumb stuff, Nintendo, but they did a lot right with the NES to get the market back to allow video games to thrive here. The beginning foundation after Atari, and I think now had if they didn't ever came out here, would Sega have released the Genesis, and would they have done that? Probably they would have still did it, but would it have been as huge a success and we've talked about as the NES? Maybe, I don't know, but at the time, 88, 89, it was gigantic. And I think maybe I'm looking back and nostalgic too much, but I don't think so. I think a lot of the games, even in my 40s, as I play these NES games I'm still finding out about, I think a lot of them still hold up very well to me. I'm going to say to me, I'm going to use that as a, not everybody's going to want to play them. But if you're the certain type of person who likes short, challenging but fair, some games are challenging but fair, and you have to memorize like levels, patterns, and you like the chiptune music, and you like the simplicity of 2 buttons. You don't have shoulder buttons. You don't have different face buttons. You don't have all these triggers. I think the NES did a lot right, and that it should get credit for that. And some of those design choices obviously didn't work. Like some people.
I have a question for you, Brian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel any other Nintendo console up from the NES has been as much of a cultural phenomenon, or like as far as you've seen? Because you saw the NES being like a significant cultural impact.
Huge.
You know, I know like the Switch probably gets that legacy. What do you think about Nintendo throughout the ages?
I would say probably the Wii before the Switch, but I think the Switch is out surpassed the Wii right now.
I was going to say the Wii too. The Wii was big.
Yeah, I think the Wii was huge. I couldn't get a Wii until 2008, and I wanted one, but I couldn't get one until then. It was such a shortage. It was just everywhere too.
Yeah, kind of like you said, like the NES was like a toy, and then the Wii became something adults. Yeah, the Wii became something adults were like, okay, I'll buy this.
Yeah, the reason it was a toy was they couldn't get it in stores if they named it a video game system, so they had to name it a toy to sell. The Wii was for everybody. They were like, okay, they tried with GameCube to do the power thing against the PlayStation and Xbox, and the GameCube's great, but it didn't quite work out for them. They were like third or second. I forget which, maybe you can tell me, but
third.
A lot of smart, yeah, thank you.
They lost that generation.
Yeah. But they smartly, I think it was a smart decision for them, for the health of their company, to say, okay, let's tone this down. We're not going to win this arms race against Sony and Microsoft. Let's just go games for everybody. You have the waggle stick. This isn't about the Wii, but probably Wii. Right now, I would say, to answer your question, I would say the Switch is. There's kids being born now, like my cousin, my distant cousin, when he was visiting, he wanted me to play Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. And he's so into Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom. It was happy for me to see a kid, because it was just like me as a kid with the NES. I think the Switch right now will be like kids like me growing up. NES for them. I think the Switch is for kids like them now. Because he knew all the games. He knew Zelda. He wanted to play Zelda 1. I got that out. He wanted to play Ocarina of Time. I got that out. And granted, he'd only play little bits and pieces, but he was enjoying those games. It made me very happy to see that. Okay, he might not get far, but he knew about the NES. And he is only 12, I think. But he knew about it through Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild is a good thing. Even though I don't like the playstyle, it's still a good game that sold a lot, that it will introduce to all these younger kids, which I think the Switch is, that's probably the best thing about the Switch, is so popular. And it has these franchises that, like, my cousin loves Zelda, loves Mario because of this. And it's on the Switch eShop. He can play. And he was so excited that I see all the games. He wanted to play. He couldn't focus. He was like, I want to play this. I want to play this. And he was like, I wish you lived next to me. I could come over and we could play games all the time. And I think there's kids out there like that. And I think the Switch is the one console that I think for old people like me who like the NES. And I know, granted, NES is, it has bad games, bad systems that don't hold up, but they're still good in there. And I think for kids like him, the Switch is going to be that console, to answer your question. Before that was probably
I think what complicates that, though, is that there are Xboxes and PlayStations that also affect kids, whereas at the time of the NES, what other consoles were like culturally effective on kids?
None. I mean, you had other consoles. You had the Master System. You had the Atari 2600. The older ones, but they were a different kind of games. They were, like, I think Spencer or Alex said they're more arcadey types, which don't, they're NES.
Well, no,
first game system that felt like
direct
actual
competitors. The direct competitors.
Well, Genesis was.
The Master System and the Atari 7800, which is is comparable to the NES spec wise, at least. Those
but
were
I never saw one of those.
The neighboring consoles, but nobody had those. Nobody played.
Yeah, that's the point.
I could never find them.
But if you played games on Master System, like Alex Kidd, they were clearly trying to emulate the success that Nintendo was having at that time with games like Mario.
Yeah. And it was hard, yeah. Alex could, but I never saw a Master System or Intellivision or 7800 or 5200 in the stores. I never even saw TurboGrafx in the stores. It was all NES and Genesis for me growing up. Like maybe it's because I was so blinded on those two systems.
Well, Genesis isn't a competitor. Genesis is like 16-bit, so I don't want to even throw that.
Well, it was a competitor. It was a competitor in '89. The NES was really hot in '88, '89.
For like a couple years, I guess. Yeah. It's like saying the PS4 is a competitor to the Wii U because they exist for 2 years.
Like, no,
they were culturally it kind of was though because they were out around the same time. Yeah,
it was a competitor. Yeah. Yeah, like you either.
I know you're. I think Alex, you're marrying the generations, but
yeah.
But they're still competitors. They're still competitors if they're on sale at the same time. They would still be considered competitors, even for a limited time.
And the marketing went at Nintendo. Genesis went at Nintendo very hard, and it worked. There was a lot of people who bought a Genesis. Some people had both. Those were fortunate. I could only have one, and I picked NES, but when I got to play a Genesis, it was like a forbidden fruit. I loved it, but it was selling very well here, and it was a competitor, even though it was 16 bits. It was definitely a competitor. And
I think the Nintendo franchise that is probably like most likely to culturally resonate with kids. I mean, it's obviously like the big ones, but I don't know. I want to say Pokemon. I don't know though. It sells. It continues to sell.
I think that Pokemon will still sell. I think Zelda, the Breath of the Wild games are huge. They're gigantic. Those will get kids. They like those. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's still Mario. I think it always has been and still will be Mario.
Yeah, Mario.
I mean, I've talked to many snot-nosed little kids that loved that Mario movie that was fucking garbage.
True.
They were like, that was the best movie I ever saw. Remember when Jack Black sang Peaches? And I'm like, that movie was not great. But
for a kids movie,
it was fun. I mean,
but it still resonates with kids. Yeah.
It was fun. I mean, I didn't care. It was fine. But had I had that when I was a kid in the Mario 2 style, I would have ate that crap up with a spoon and asked for more. If that was like a Mario 2 movie when I was a kid, I would have.
Stop talking about Mario 2.
But I was like, we didn't get that. We got the 93 Mario movie, which was like, I never saw it because I was like, what the heck is this? They're not.
Oh, you know what though? Even as a kid, like I watched that as a kid. Of course, now I can look at it for what it is and be like, that's garbage. But even as a kid, the fact that it was a Mario movie was like cool because I was like, oh shit, that's a game that I like. That is a movie, and that's what I'm saying. Like there is still sort of that same appeal now.
Yeah, I think also like we had Captain N the Game Master, which I watched a ton. We had Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which I loved. It was out there in marketing, but I think now Nintendo is really now that Iwata's gone. I think they're really not, and I kind of like Iwata's. That's a different story. I liked how Iwata was handling it better now. They're so market focused now on like theme parks going up. You know, they got movies coming out that I think they're trying to get exposure more, and the Switch is so selling. So they're very set financially for these franchises that were on the NES and later Super Nintendo. But
I think Iwata was terrible.
Oh, the Wii U tanked.
I think he was awful.
And he was. I mean, but you know what? With the Wii U, he was. I love Iwata, but he was super upfront about he was like, yeah, we fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, they did. I mean, yeah, I mean, oh, definitely.
Iwata asks, no, Iwata apologizes.
Basically, no, he basically did because he took like a pay cut during that time.
Yeah.
He was like, we here in Nintendo leadership messed up. And sorry.
My point is, he was a developer, so he had a different way to run the company. He wasn't going to run it like a business guy as much as the new guy is, which is different. They're different, you know. They're different types. But I kind of like that developer mindset of let's make a creative game instead of like what they got going on now. But I still like, you know, what they're doing. They're more popular than probably since the NES.
Brian, you say that, Brian, but I view the NES era. You know what I view that as? I view that as Nintendo as a business. You know why? Because they limited their third-party companies to only a certain amount of games per year. They had licensing deals, and it was all about the brand. all about the
Do you know?
brand. So I
Do
think
you know why?
I think
Do you know
even back then
why?
on NES, I think they still marketed it as a business.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, of course they were a business, but there's a reason why they limited developers so many games a year. It's because Atari released everything under the sun, and they oversaturated with a bunch of games that nobody liked. They weren't in varying quality, so
Yeah,
they
I think
limited the amount that they could do. As draconian as it is, it probably helped keep a lot of the crap out. But there's still a ton of crap. Don't get me wrong.
they're
There's a
very
ton of
very
crap.
smart to do that, and they created that
Okay.
Nintendo seal of approval. And as goofy as whatever you might think of it,
Mhm.
it's important that they did that to make sure that you trusted Nintendo products, and you understood that this wasn't a bunch of garbageware.
Exactly. Well, going back to the black box games, the reason why they were black with the pixel art on it was because Atari had these elaborate box arts that looked nothing like the game. So they wanted to say on all their black box games, "Hey, kid, this is what you're getting. You're getting this is what the graphics look like. This is exactly what you're getting." So they knew exactly what it was, and they weren't like, "Well, this
Enix
isn't."
had a lot to learn.
Yeah, but yeah, but that's what it was.
No black box there.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. It was an important console, whether you like NES games or not, which I understand if you don't. It was a very important time, at least for me, and I think it was a very important console to have. Like I said, if the NES wasn't here, uh, would Sega have taken over? Maybe, but it's hard for me to look back on a console's games now being there as big as they are without the NES. It might have took a little bit longer, or it might have gone in different ways, but it's a very important console because the types of games were not longer arcade shoot games like high score games. There were still some of those, but they felt like adventures. Like when Dragon Quest was out, games focused a lot more towards adventures and more console experiences where you could, they felt like a big world, like they felt like a living world as much as an NES game could. Where before they were more arcade experiences like shooting, where the NES has more like adventure type games, like Rygar is an open ended kind of adventure. Yeah, as weird as Karnov is, that's kind of a platformer that has it felt weird like it big at a time, but it wasn't really. It was just kind of a glitchy mess. But
Brian, maybe
there's
save the
games like that.
recommendations because I think we can like segue that in kind of like in one of these.
Sure. I guess my point is like there's a lot of experiences on the NES that I think helped shape the industry the way it was. If you didn't take that first step away from arcades and into more console-based experiences, the NES did that very well. And it's the first system that I really remember gravitate. It's the first system I know I really gravitated to, even having an Atari and playing ColecoVision. Oh, those Smurfs was kind of quaint.
Well, I was gonna say, in terms of the library itself, we may have gotten that seal of approval, and we may have gotten the stray away from arcade games. But you know what else we got? We got a plague for like 2 generations or 3 generations from then, even to now, in some form, where a lot of games before NES were basically arcade games. But then with NES, where it was popular and it was a toy, we saw a lot of licensing. And my God, there's a lot of licensed garbage on NES and consoles after, but it was kind of a plague that the NES introduced that leaked over into like Super Nintendo, Genesis, like N64 and stuff, where we saw a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, you could buy the license so cheap. Everybody wanted to get video games as well. So you could have. That's why Milton Bradley, of all people, published games. They wanted to get into games, so they'd hire out. They didn't care about the quality as much. But they would only release so many games a year, but they'd be under that. So they would hire out like companies to, like LJN's the biggest one. They never made games, but they licensed out to other companies to make these games of varying quality. Some of the worst games were licensed games, like the X-Men game and stuff like that. But everybody wanted to get back into games after being shut down for so long that you had a lot of cheap license being bought up and putting out these licensed games, like Turbo said, that were just not very good at all. And even though you had those safeguards put in place, there was still a ton of crap on NES. But I think a lot of the good stuff still does hold up today, in my opinion. Like when I play an NES game, I still get that feeling like when I was a kid. and maybe it's part of my nostalgia for it, but I like that gameplay experiences of the NES a lot. I like what that makes me feel. As hard as these games are sometimes, but once you get through it, you're like, oh, I did that. I beat that. I jumped over that platform, beat that guy, beat that boss, and then I beat it. I did the game. And then you go back again, and you can do it faster. There's something to be said about that improving. Very, very, very fun.
Spencer, you were going to say?
What's that?
I said you were going to say something?
No.
Oh, I thought you had something to say.
Well, I have plenty to say, but I'm trying to slot it in the right way.
All right, well, let's segue into a new section. What are the best NES games? The personal best, because we all have different experiences with the console. Some of the best games you've ever played, and we can go left to right. Spencer, who's left most on your screen?
Me.
Hey, go.
The best NES game, to me, I'll say that personally, is not even a close contest. It's like night and day better than every other NES game. Better than Mario, better than Zelda, better than all that crap. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, is literally the most fun I've ever had on the console. I have so many great memories of playing that game with my cousin, with my friend. Just if ever it was there, like literally, I remember getting off the plane and going to Chicago. I think I was like 6 or 5. That's where my family's from, and we went to my friend's house we went to my cousin's house, my uncle's house, but my cousin lived there, and he's like, we have an NES with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on it, and I was like, out of my way, and I blew them off. I didn't even say like hi to my uncle who I hadn't seen in like 5 years. Like since I was 1, I guess, or whatever. But I guess ever, really. And then I was like later, and I went down to their basement, and me and my brother literally just played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for like 5 hours and ignored everybody. That game to me is so good and so like infinitely playable that I don't think it gets better than that's the one, Ninja Turtles. It looks good. It looked good then. It looks good now. It's got this great art style. I've like literally, in a way, I've been chasing a reproduction of that, like to like some game to make me as excited to play NES. It never happens. That literally is just the best. So
yeah, it's a good one. I think a lot of kids growing up, well, Turtles were big. This was a big one for me too. We played this a lot, me and my friends at the time. And it had different levels than the arcade game. It had like a snow level, a different level.
Incredible game.
And Ultra, getting around Nintendo's Konami game, but Ultra is the Shadow Puppet Company by Konami, right there.
Yep.
One of the reasons we didn't get more Castlevanias was because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were so good, so big from what I hear, that Castlevania games were always compared in sales to the Ninja Turtle game.
Right.
So why can't you sell like the Ninja Turtle games? So this game was really big. Yeah. I'm glad you liked that one. Have you ever played the third one, Spencer? Manhattan Project?
Yeah. It's good, but it's not the
hard.
same thing. Yeah, it's too different.
It's a lot more varied in the moves. Like in this
They're too
one,
green.
Too green.
I'm scared. I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's very hard, and I like some of the ideas of it, like the overworld part mixing with the side scrolling is really fucking cool. But
you're talking about I'm talking about the sequel, Turtles 3. It's just like
this was that on like Genesis or something?
No, it's on NES. Yeah,
okay.
It's just like this one, but they added more different moves for each turtle.
No, I never played
that. Yeah, you probably like that one.
Probably.
You wouldn't like the first NES game. You wouldn't like, but that one, Turtles 3, the Manhattan Project, you'd like.
Who's next?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Spencer. All right, turn it over.
Next on mine is Brian.
I will go for.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to limit you. You get 3 max.
Sure. I was only going to do one,
okay.
But
one
it
is.
Do 3. Okay. I do Super Mario Brothers 2. One of the best Mario game on the system.
Alex's kryptonite. Alex is fizzling out.
This is what basically I knew Mario as. The cartoons were based on this. The merchandise was based on this Mario.
I'm letting Brian have it.
It's a very weird game, Like it felt so huge at the time. It's not really huge. It's like 7 worlds, 3 stages each. But it felt so weird throwing a potion down and going into like a subworld that was only just like colored different, but you found like a mushroom there. Different playable characters. You were playing as different characters that like felt different. Like Mario was the average, like vanilla, like doesn't do everything great, average jump, average speed. Toad was really fast if you wanted to play with the picking up stuff real fast and run fast. Not good jump though. Peach could float, and I always pick Peach because I love that floating, like you jump again and float. There was giant whales with like stuff spurting out that I always loved that stage in the World 4 where there was like geysers spurting out that you could jump on. I know people say, oh, it's just Doki Doki Panic, and it is, but it's an improved version of Doki Doki Panic for us. And it's just an overall magical game that I think I would say, like, I don't want to say favorites, but if I were to save one game in my collection, it would probably be Mario 2. If the house was on fire, I'd probably, and I could only pick real quick, and I saw my games real quick, I'd probably grab this or probably Castlevania.
It's growing on me. I used to kind of bash on it because it doesn't feel.
Well, you weren't alone. It's always been bashed on. Yeah. But growing up, everybody loved it. Like,
I mean, even on YouTube, it seems like everyone loves it. So I'm okay to be in the minority.
Yeah. I hear people bash it. Oh, it's just a reskin and all that. But so what? It's a good game.
Because nobody knows what Doki Doki Panic is.
It just doesn't feel like Mario to me. You know? It doesn't feel like a Mario game to me.
The thing is, there was only two Mario games. There was only 2 Mario games at the time. I was happy for something different.
Mario 2 is my favorite.
I will take it over Lost Levels. Lost Levels is
which we didn't get, which was Howard Phillips saying that game is too much like the first. It's too hard. We're not going to bring it over here. So I think they made the right
Japanese people which should be jealous in that time.
No, they still got Mario 2. It's called Doki Doki Panic. Little known fact. Hold on.
Mario
Did
USA.
you know? Hold on, stop. Did you know that in Japan, Mario 2 is known as Doki Doki Panic? There's a little game fact.
I've heard about that. But did you know?
It's first time that's ever been said on the internet.
Damn.
No,
Wait, are you saying that Doki Doki Panic is actually our version of Super Mario Brothers 2? Home Alone face?
That is crazy, right? And you won't believe it.
Yeah, Mario 2 is my favorite of the 3. I like that one a lot. I like the
really more than 3. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I had
the same boat.
When I was a kid, I got All Stars, so I got 1, Lost Levels, 2, and 3, and 2 is by far the one I played the most. I like the colors and the worlds.
Yeah.
I like the character choice. I mean, Luigi and Peach are pretty OP. Mario sucks. So it's unfortunate.
He's average like me.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, the music's nice.
Yeah, the music's good. See, there you go.
I'll say something nice about it. The music's nice.
In the boss battles, you fought a giant 3-headed snake. You fought a mouse with sunglasses. You fought freaking Warp.
I love those. I love them.
Okay, so look, here's my problem with Mario 2, just to get this out
Fry
there.
Guy?
Mario,
you don't like a guy called Fry Guy?
Brian, pass the mic. Mario 1 and Mario 3, it's like run, jump, platform. Mario 2 is like a weird grabbing game where I have to pick shit up and throw it. And I'm like, what is this? Yeah. And it's like rooms where I have to run in and grab a key and run out, and it's like a thing chases me, and I'm like, what is this game?
Says somebody that likes Banjo-Kazooie. Well, that's exactly what Banjo-Kazooie is.
Banjo-Kazooie didn't have a game prior that felt. It's like nuts and bolts. It's like that's a completely different game. It's like Mario 2 to me feels like a completely different game.
But you like nuts and bolts.
Wait, that's true.
Nuts and bolts.
That's just up to the taste on game to game. But I don't like Mario 2. That's what I'm saying.
Let's okay, we understand. Let's go to positives. Next best, Spencer. Who's up?
Oh, you are, Teddy.
I'm always last.
Look at that. I think it's because your camera's off. It defaults you.
No matter what I do, I'm always last.
Get better Wi-Fi.
If you ain't first.
At this time, just because I don't own the other versions, I will say that the first Dragon Warrior is one of the best NES experiences you can get because it feels like you are starting one of the first turn-based RPGs that existed on the console market, and it has stood up as surprisingly playable almost 40 years later, and everything is compact. The music, the progression, the mechanics, the story's, not really present, but that's okay. I forgive it for that, for being one of its first. And it's very unique within its series. And honestly, I mean, it could get you into the Dragon Quest series, which is one of my favorites. There were a couple other runner-ups, but we could do runner-ups afterwards. So I really like that first Dragon Warrior. I am curious to see how I feel about 3 and 4. They are ungodly expensive, so that factors in.
And Alex.
I think, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not going to talk about my Game Talk game, which was Punch Out, but like favorites probably Punch Out or Metroid. I'm going to talk about a game that I think is one of my favorite experiences on NES, and it's an overlooked game. Brian's played it. Brian can talk about it after I'm done talking. It's Faxanadu. I think Faxanadu is a brilliant Metroidvania for NES. That's like almost like it. Well, it basically is just Castlevania 2, but good. And I love it not only for the fact that like it is a good Metroidvania on the console, but also it has really interesting art. The NES is known for being bright, colorful. Games need to be readable. And the color palette, there's not really much like varying colors, like shades to work with. So trying to make something look kind of dark and grimy is kind of hard on the NES color palette. But this game does it flawlessly. There's some areas in this game that look so dank and drab. It has like such a dark atmosphere. There's a whole area that's like covered in mist that looks amazing for the console. And even the opening of the game, you like go to this village, and the village has been like ransacked and monsters have like overtaken it, and you actually get to see that in the village and like fight the monsters and then talk to people in the village. It really feels like this step up from the other games of this ilk at the time, and it's one that I think is overlooked quite a bit. Not a perfect game by any means, but it's one that I really respect and I think is like one of my favorite experiences on the console.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
Soundtrack.
we would just text Anadu.
You're hilarious.
I get it.
It's called Faxanadu because it's part of the Xanadu franchise, which was a series by Falcom. It also made Ys.
Yeah.
And it was Famicom. So it was Famicom Xanadu, Faxanadu.
Yeah.
What are some runner-ups, or one per person? One that you didn't pick as a best NES game, but you would. Let's go backwards. Alex, you start.
No, that wasn't my pick. No, I'm gonna pick something that is more arcadey and stuff. I'm gonna go with Wrecking Crew. I really like that game. It's an early game, and it's a game where you just go level to level trying to demolish the environment. And it's a game that I also have a ton of fun with. It's an easy game to like. I have it on my 3DS. I have it on everything basically. I can just pick it up and play it within 10 minutes and have a good time.
I'll go another one that's well, I need to beat it someday. I've tried it many times, but I am excited to get it. It's Shadowgate, point and click adventure. I don't know if it's one of the first, but I mean, obviously it was better it's better to play that kind of thing on PC, but I think like from what I played, it is very playable on console. A lot of deaths if you don't know what you're doing, and it really is challenging, forces you to pay attention to like every little detail, reverse track and rooms. It's a game you'll be thinking about outside of playing it.
Yeah, good atmosphere in that game. Very creepy.
Brian?
I'd go Ninja Gaiden 3, the Ancient Ship of Doom. I think that's my favorite Ninja Gaiden on the NES. I think each one got better and they had their faults. The first one had, it was very early, and the level design, the graphics weren't as great as the X2, and there was a problem with the feature that they left out, a bug where they sent you back at the beginning of 6. If you got to 6.3, they send you back to 6.1 at the last boss. But I think 2 improved with the graphics and the themes, but kind of hit detection was kind of off. 3 improved upon everything. They gave you a longer sword. They gave you a ability to grapple and move up. The hit detection was better. The enemies didn't respawn. So it's the more fair of them. But also they made it limited continues, so it's hard in that. The hardness of that game comes from the limited continues. But yeah, Ninja Gaiden 3, it would be probably my pick for Unsung. Is that what we're doing? Unsung for other top NES games.
I will say Tecmo Bowl. It's freaking fun. I don't even like football games, but I like Tecmo Bowl. It's just a great time.
Yeah, it's the only football game I like.
Yeah, it's pretty much for me too.
Like unless you're counting like those was it Blood Bowl, like the Warhammer stuff? Like those are that's a strategy game basically though. Like yeah, Tecmo Bowl is like the best arcade football game you're ever gonna play. And
Yeah.
It's a fucking NES game.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
There you have it. 8 of our best NES games. What are yours? Let us know in the comments below.
And why is it Clue Clue Land?
We could segue into bad NES games. What are some bad NES games? I
Mario
have no
2?
particular order here.
Ugh.
Just kidding.
Don't ask me.
I got one now. Bad subjectives. People have it going up, so I'm gonna say Bart versus the Space Mutants. I never liked that game.
That is bad. What do you mean bad subjective? That's a badly designed game.
I think people who grew up with it kind of have a hot soft spot. So I don't want to
Don't pander to them, Brian. It's bad.
I never liked that one. I never liked like Terminator on NES is pretty bad. But yeah, my one that comes out is Bart versus the Space Mutants. All those Simpsons games, there was Bart versus the World. They were so the run button was on your jump button. So if you wanted to run, you had to jump first and hold it, and then you hit it again. It was weird. I don't know why they did that. I think because you had the spray paint or something on the other button, but it just controlled so poorly, and it looked so weird. It looked so like off-brand weirdness to it. The graphics were a garbled mess. Yeah, it's probably my pick.
Reminds me of that Pac-Man game, Pac-Land.
Oh, I never played that.
Is that the one, Alex?
Which one are you thinking of?
The like auto run one where he's like,
yeah, that's Pac-Land.
Pac-Land is pretty bad.
I'll go next. It's easy to point. It's easy to throw a dart at a wall and be like, "Oh, it's the Addams Family or something." No, but it's a worse offender on the NES to me is Metal Gear because it takes a pretty good MSX game and shits all over it with the NES port. It's not a good version of Metal Gear. If you're gonna play Metal Gear the original, which you probably shouldn't anyway, because it just plays solid. But if you're gonna play Metal Gear, don't go for the NES version because it's a downgrade in every single way, and it has very bad translations and is overall terrible. Like it's a stealth game, but whenever you leave a screen and come back, the enemies reset. So you can't really do stealth. You can't knock out enemies and stuff. It's bad. It's a bad conversion of that great game.
I was always curious.
Speaking of bad conversions, we got a bad conversion of a bad game. Zaxxon. Sorry, Spencer. Know you're a fan. Don't do it.
Zaxxon.
He's on.
This is Zaxxon. Is that a bad game?
Zaxxon.
You're the biggest fan.
Sounds a Master System game, isn't it?
No, it's an arcade game.
I'm thinking of Zillion.
Yeah,
Zaxxon's the isometric shooter.
Oh, that one. Okay. I didn't know that was on the NES.
Spencer, I'm asking you the fateful question. Bad NES game. Pick one.
Jesus. Yeah,
Spencer is sweating right now.
I'm the worst, literally the worst person to ask that.
Too many options.
Because like Alex was like, throw a dart at a board. That is to me the NES is throwing a dart at a board. Like you could just pick one, and I would just not like playing it. I mean, I respect a lot of the library, so it's like I'm not gonna pick a game that I don't respect, but then I probably don't really know it, so I could just pick like some random shit game, I guess. I know it was a Famicom, so it wasn't technically on the American one, but the Ys game I played was absolutely dreadful. Like one of the worst things I've ever experienced.
That counts.
Okay, Ys 1. There you go.
Would you call it easy? An easy pick?
Yes, easy pick. For
Teddy,
Shit.
you could have picked Pac-Land because that was on NES too.
That was a Tengen
Didn't I?
game, right?
Yeah, Pac-Land. Yeah, it got an NES port.
I think
Yeah, I
you
said
picked
that.
Yeah. I thought he did.
Color me pickled.
Well, your background is green, so it could be a pickle.
Spencer, that's up to you. Let's go out on Brian recommending each of us individually one NES game he'd like us to play. I know
Oh,
you
God.
recommended me one. You got to pick a
And you
different.
have to explain.
Pressure.
And you have to explain why
Oh,
you're choosing this
God.
game for this person. You can't just be like, Spencer, play the Berenstain Bears. No, you have to pick a character,
Okay.
a mapper.
Getting it
You have to pick
now.
a mapper, pick a game, and explain why
It's
that
hard.
game is good for that
Like,
mapper.
because if you don't like NES games, most of them are platformers that if you're not going to
Take
like
20
that,
seconds.
I'll
Take
say
it over.
Spencer, the NES version of Dragon Warrior 4, because I want to see how you handle when you get to Chapter 5 in that game. There's a big twist in that game that you can't control your party members. You can only control your hero, and you have to use some weird AI things to get your characters to do what you want, or otherwise they would be kind of hard to control.
I'm down with that. Cool.
Down with the clown.
Teddy, I'd say. I know Teddy played through the Mega Mans. He likes a little bit of challenge, but a fair challenge. Castlevanias he played through. I would say Vice Project Doom, which is on the Switch eShop. If you have the Nintendo Switch online, it's not the eShop. Is a cool platformer that I think it has unlimited continues, and you has like car driving stage like Spy Hunter and shooter stages with the reticle, and Ninja Gaiden like you have a sword you can hit select and throw a grenade and do a gun for long distance. A good music, late NES game. You might like that one, so maybe try that one. Alex, I'd say. Oh, this is tough because Alex played a lot of NES stuff. I want to say I'd like. No, I won't say that. I want to have something he'd actually like. Have you played DuckTales 2?
Yeah.
Tailspin?
Yeah. I played all the Disney stuff basically.
This is gonna be
Except for
hard.
like the stupid shit.
Yeah. So I would say, how about Kabuki Quantum Fighter?
Oh, I haven't played that one. What is that?
It's a action platformer, like a lot of NES games. It has a little bit of a hard difficulty, limited continues, so I don't know how far you'd stick with it. But you're this not ninja, but you're a Kabuki fighter with a hair, and you whip your hair like Shantae to attack. You're like you go in the stages, and after every boss, you get chips, a special chip power you can use, and you hit select, and you can use the chips, but it decreases. So there's a pull and pick, give and pull to do you want to use your chips through the level to make it easier, or do you want to save them for the boss and just obliterate the boss? You can jump and grab like platforms and jump and spin up. It does get quite challenging, but it's made by HAL. No, Human Entertainment. I think HAL published it. I think Human made it. But yeah, it's a decent game. Just off the top of my head, you might like it.
I
know
talked
you played
about
a lot
Human
of
Entertainment
different
recently.
stuff. Mm-hmm.
What was your original choice for me that I wasn't gonna like? Was it Mario 2?
I was gonna say Dragon Warrior, but I wanted you to have something you'd actually
Oh,
play.
I have Dragon Warrior. It's on my fucking. I've played Dragon Warrior.
If you're not playing through 11, then you're not gonna like the. So I wanted to have something you'd actually like. So.
Brian, I'm always playing through 11, meaning I've gotten to a point and I might continue it. That could be 15 years from now. That could be never.
I mean, that's just off the top of my head.
I'm always in a perpetual state of playing Dragon Quest 11. If somebody asks me, "You playing Dragon Quest 11?" Yeah, I'll tell you where I am. It's gonna be the same spot that I have been.
Now let's go out on recommending Brian a modern game, specifically Life of P.
Yeah, you should play Lies of P.
Yeah, well, play Lies of P. Play Lies of P. You don't have to see Pinocchio. Play Lies of P.
But it seems like Spencer was equating it to Pinocchio. Like I need to watch to get the.
It is
experience.
Pinocchio. No, you don't know. I mean, it's Pinocchio adjacent. It is Pinocchio, but you don't have to watch another Pinocchio to get this Pinocchio. What kind of sense does that make?
It's a different interpretation.
I played the Nintendo published Super Nintendo game Pinocchio already. I have all the lore I need.
There you go.
I have the Pinocchio experience.
Well, then
You have the Lies of P. That's the prequel.
Yeah, now you're going into Lies of P armed with knowledge that most of us didn't have.
With your SNES Pinocchio knowledge.
Lies of P aside, let's really recommend him a modern game.
I mean, Lies of P would be a good recommendation.
Banned.
A modern game. Is it like a modern game that would appeal to his NES sensibilities? Is that the idea? Or just
it doesn't have to be. Yeah. Just something I might like, maybe. Be nice.
Define modern. How long ago?
Available on modern systems, and not like a re-release, like not like a Xbox 360 port. You know,
I just have a PS4, PS3, and Xbox. Those are the newest stuff I have, and Switch. But
Switch. Switch is the newest thing you have. Goofball.
Oh yeah, I just forget. Yeah, sorry.
You big dummy. All right.
I'm interested to see what he comes up with.
I'm gonna choose The Binding of Isaac because you like Zelda 1. And that's basically Zelda 1, but just the dungeons, and it's randomized.
Oh, I don't like randomized dungeons though.
Too bad. Play it. Play Binding of Isaac. That's the recommendation. You don't get to turn down my recommendation. It's my recommendation. Play Binding of Isaac. Binding of Isaac's great.
Okay. I thought that one was a shooter. Is that Gungeon?
That's Gungeon. That's into Gungeon.
Okay. I get those two mixed up. Okay. Thank you.
Spencer, you got one?
Lies of P. That was
not yet. No,
I can't do Lies of P. Oh, there's restrictions on what I can recommend him.
I think you can.
We all can't recommend him Lies of P.
Oh, so
he's over recommended the P Lies.
That's Teddy's rule.
I mean,
we all collectively recommended it to him, so now we have.
Okay, it's already been done. Okay,
then I'll cheat. Bloodborne. There you go.
Okay, I like Castlevania.
Tell him why.
Yeah, Castlevania. You like Castlevania, so it's definitely in that category, but darker, I would say. It's got old. I would argue that the series in general just has like an old school gameplay, where it's less about cinematic junk and more about timing your button presses, learning enemy patterns, and exploring the world. And it has Metroidvania style, level progression and really cool atmosphere. So I think Bloodborne you'd really like.
It's on PS4.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go Shin Megami Tensei 5. Why not? I think it's compact enough that it doesn't feel like a Breath of the Wild. It's pretty linear and it's still got like the turn-based RPG stuff. Yeah, it is more monster tamey stuff. Also, you haven't really played a SMT game to my knowledge.
No, I haven't.
So I think that's a decent jumping in point.
Okay. That's on Switch.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And don't forget to play Liza P.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Pinocchio fan, though.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
Yeah, but what about Korea's?
Pinocchio?
What about Korea's
Do
take
you like the
on
whale in
Pinocchio?
Super Mario 2?
Yeah.
What if? Okay, hold on. What if
there's a
Pinocchio was
difference.
hot?
North Korea or South Korea?
That's
There's a
true.
difference.
Definitely North Korea. What if Pinocchio is like super fucking hot and you wanted to have sex with him?
Yeah. What if Pinocchio was sexy? What if you want to fuck him?
I'd never want to do that. I don't go.
Don't
into
say
games-
never.
But you might with
I
Liza
don't
P.
go-
You haven't played Liza P.
I don't
yet.
go into games thinking I want to have relations with this character.
And
about
he's
to.
a puppet, so you can't even. Yeah, you can't make like the age argument because he's just a puppet. It doesn't matter.
He's a young puppet.
He's a young puppet.
How long ago was the puppet made?
That's a good question. You have to play to find
And
out.
is it immoral? It looks like a kid.
No, it doesn't look like a
Yes.
kid. But
Yes.
that's the thing that it's like if it was made yesterday, but it was made to look hot and like an adult. Is it a kid
an
or is it an
adult.
adult?
No,
Adult
it's
Pinocchio.
still no, it's
Pinocchio
still a
dad.
kid.
No, it's
No,
not
we're
still a
talking-
kid because it was.
But he looks like a kid
Pinocchio-Man.
though.
You've heard of Pokemon?
No,
There's
this
Pinocchio Man.
this Pinocchio, this P is older. He looks more mature and
The big
sexy.
I would let
I
him
don't know
pee.
if I don't know
I
if
would let
would
him pee
mature.
on me. That's all I'm saying.
That's a really good pun. It's not a good pun.
Jeez, define mature. Like mature in the Gears of War mature, or mature in the I got a kid,
Buff.
wife, and 2 kids, and I'm
Harry
Like he
Man.
doesn't look like a child. That's what I mean by mature.
Oh, okay.
Dad bod.
He's got a dad bod. It's Pinocchio with a dad.
Fat Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, did you eat all of the donuts? You didn't save any for me. And he's like, no.
Geppetto.
Oh, could you pass
I'll
the
do what I
whiskey?
want.
Pinocchio, were you out
Man,
drinking?
what a rough day today.
Were you at the bar until 2 a.m. and stumbled home and broke all the dishes on accident? Like, no. And his nose grows.
I was whale watching for the whale that ate me when I was a child.
Geppetto's
this
like, get up,
Pinocchio?
Pinocchio, come on. It's like, you'll be a real boy one day. And it's like fat old Pinocchio in like a chair. He's like grunting. It like he's making like those dad grunts to get up. He's like,
Well, yeah. My dad used to say, my dad always, when I was working outside or doing something, he had me doing all this stuff. He go, Brian, if you can't lift that up, grunt. You'll be stronger if you grunt. And I think he actually believed that.
I agree. As
It
a
actually
weight, as a
uses
person
more
that-
energy if you grunt. So you
So
can
maybe
do
he was onto
more
something.
if you
there,
don't.
man. Yeah, maybe he was onto something.
as a person that lifts weights a lot, I agree with that.
Oh.
When you grunt, you I don't know. There's something that comes out when you do that, for sure.
I think
a
on the
big-
last rep, like it may help you to push it through, but if your goal is to continue doing reps, it expends less energy if you
Oh.
just kind of breathe in rapidly.
See, I always heard breathing was the key. I never heard grunting. So
I
maybe he
think
was onto
I
something.
think the grunting, all the grunting doing, it's the placebo effect. It's just inflating your ego, and you think you're stronger. You're like, oh yeah. Really, you're just,
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe he's onto
actually.
something. I just never wanted to be out like and grunt. You know, when I'm picking up something, I never felt the need to grunt. I always felt like, well, is that too like showy?
Is that something you think about on a daily basis?
Yeah, you
No,
look, you
I'm
sound
just
like
like-
you've been thinking about this.
Do I need to grunt right here? Do I need to grunt right now?
Like if I'm lifting like a thing of milk or something. Well, not heavier than milk, but maybe like a,
If you're grunting while you're holding, if you're lifting a thing of milk, you
No, like,
are you have atrophied.
If my mom
Your
says,
body
"Hey, can you
is
move?"
about to fall apart.
Can you, yeah, not milk. That was a bad example. But can you move this?
No, you
something.
said milk, so that came from somewhere. That came from a place of knowing.
Yeah. What's been hard to
First
lift
thing
lately?
you thought of,
Milk.
milk.
That was a tough one.
Hey, I can
Building
do
with
the
the
I can
grunt
do
and
the
milk
2
with the
liters. I'm working up for the gallon.
But who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe he's talking about like a pail of milk. Maybe he's out milking the cow, and he's out on the farm, all sweaty, tired.
Or a
Picking up a big
bag
pail
of
of milk.
Have you heard
Back
of
in the
the
days, yeah.
Have you heard of the weightlifting term "go mad"? Brian, I know you're into that stuff.
Wait, go mad? Oh no.
Go mad,
I-
yeah.
I have not heard. I'm gonna say it's like when you get mad, you get veinier.
No,
But because weightlifting, you want to be veiny, right?
no, weightlifting is that's
Yeah, that's the goal. You want to be veiny. That's the goal.
yeah. No, that you're talking about vascularity in bodybuilding. It's one form of people do.
Oh, I
But-
miss. Okay,
Um,
bodybuilding.
But no, it's called gallon of milk a day. Go mad. And they trick people into drinking a gallon of milk a day if they want to bulk up. And it's funny as
You
fuck.
can't. Your body can't.
Yeah, it's
It's
the
hard
funny
to
part
do
of
that.
it is
You're
watching.
gonna puke it up before you even.
Right, it's to trick people that are new that
Oh.
they make them drink a gallon of milk a day and watch them puke.
Oh.
Just think of the Arnold quote.
That-
Somebody
it's that-
interviews him in his like bodybuilding phase. They're like, "So Arnold, do you drink milk for your diet?" He's like, "No, milk is for babies."
I like
You know, if it's more impressive, I just have to drink a glass of milk and I'll puke.
You're not a big. Yeah, that's right. You're not a big milk.
I don't like milk.
I'm a big milk. I grew up a time where big milk was around everything. Like they were always propaganding milk.
Big milk.
The big milk industry.
But they were
I don't
want to
have the big
drink
milk
your
cock."
milk. So I think it was ingrained in me that hey, drink milk. Where now we know, hey, maybe it's not
Stop!
the best.
Everybody's gonna know that we've been bought out by Big Milk.
I know I have.
Yeah, nothing like a peanut butter jelly and a glass of milk. That's good.
It was the Got Milk. That was the commercial back in the day.
Yeah, got milk.
Got
and
milk. Yeah.
calcium. And they always had the breakfasts where somebody was eating cereal. They had eggs, muffin, scrambled eggs. They had orange juice, a glass of milk. It was like the most unhealthy thing.
Gross.
They
I don't
Helps
like
the
fucking
bones
milk. I don't
grow.
like
That was
milk.
like the marketing.
Yeah.
Milketing.
If I ever said, "Man, I'm thirsty," and somebody handed me some milk, I would throw it at them. Like I don't want this shit.
I could
Well,
see that. Milk's a very I mean, we all drink it, whether we know or not, growing up. But if you like cow milk or not, it depends. I drank a lot of milk growing up.
Drink this, Brian.
No.
Don't ask
Like
questions.
And now I
You
get
can't leave the table until you finish your milk.
Yeah.
It's like, what is
Your
that?
cow milk. Can I have a different milk? No, you must
That's
drink
what
cow
I
milk.
thought Spencer was drinking milk, but that's a water bottle. But the lighting looked like it was drinking.
I was earlier. I was drinking a smoothie that I use. What do you call it? Almond milk now. But I use.
That's the good shit. No, I'll drink some almond milk. Yeah.
I would rather.
Some mama milk.
I would rather drink real milk, and I was drinking it
Almond
before,
milk.
but I have some dairy doesn't
I
really sit
can't.
with me.
Yeah, I can't. The older I get, the more dairy doesn't agree with me if I drink too much. The lactose.
The organic milk is okay, but the regular milk I can't. But almond milk, I'll go either that or organic, and it's okay.
Do you guys like cereal? Because I love cereal, but I limit it. If you don't like milk, what do you put on cereal?
I can't eat any breakfast foods.
No,
Okay.
I do almond milk.
I just reduced
Almond
sugar,
milk.
so I
Yeah.
my breakfast choices are either eggs, oats, or yogurt, especially because of the
Yogurt.
protein.
I eat I eat a bowl of oatmeal every day. I love
I eat about a pound of bacon.
Hell yeah, dude.
I eat about 16 biscuits. A whole like trough full of gravy each morning. That's what I have.
Jimmy Dean's sausage.
That's his
sandwiches.
drink.
Yeah.
That's my drink. Gravy. You know what? I would rather drink gravy than milk.
Fuck yeah.
Wow.
Dude. Hell yeah.
Drink a thing of
There you
gravy.
go.
Ooh, oof. That's like
Dude, I
blood
could down
dripping.
some fucking gravy. I love
But
gravy.
If you're eating raw potatoes or something, or like mashed potatoes with nothing, and then gravy is like the beverage, I think it's possible.
I guess. I just never thought, boy, I'm gonna drink a thing of gravy. I don't think anybody ever does, but
That's the new got mad craze. Is drink gravy.
see, I don't think somebody would fall for that like the milk one though.
Go Gad.
When I was like
Go
20,
Cat.
we lived near a Waffle House, and I was also a broke kid, had no money, and I had no car either. So I would walk to this Waffle House, and I would get the cheapest thing on the menu was hash browns. So I would get hash browns, and I would have them
hash
fucking
browns.
smother it in gravy. I'd just be like, I'll tell the lady, I was like, when you bring this back, I don't want to see the hash browns. I want to see gravy.
Wow.
So it's just so much gravy.
Yeah, gravy's a
Hell yeah.
staple too. Yeah.
It's like $3 for that meal.
It's weird to think
Oh,
this stuff.
speaking of staples, we really stapled this topic shut. Thanks for joining us on the NES Discourse, Mr. Brian.
Oh,
of
thank you for
Igotkings.
having me. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Quite a bit. Always a pleasure.
We talked a lot of tangents, but
It was
No
good. It
worries.
kept this stuff
Sure,
going
they
along.
enjoyed
So. Mhm.
yeah,
Hopefully, we came up with an idea for your new name.
I got gravy.
Big dairy,
I got
big milk.
gravy.
I got milk.
Big
The gravy
milk.
train. Got milk. Big milk.
Big dairy. I love it.
Big dairy.
Hey y'all, don't forget to subscribe to them button mappers.